I used to believe in the fairy tale. Not the Disney kind with princes and castles, but the real-world version. Meet someone special, fall in love, build a life together, grow old side by side. For 17 years, I thought I was living it. Melissa and I met at a friend's barbecue when we were both 25. She laughed at my terrible jokes about SQL databases, and I was captivated by how her eyes crinkled when she smiled. Our wedding 2 years later was small. Just 40 guests. In her parents' backyard, string lights overhead, her grandmother's lace tablecloth on the buffet table. Perfect in its simplicity. We bought a 3-bedroom ranch house in a quiet suburb of Columbus. Nothing fancy, but it had a big kitchen where we'd cook together on weekends, experimenting with recipes we found online. Sunday mornings meant pancakes and terrible reality TV. Friday nights were for ordering Chinese and binge-watching whatever series we'd discovered that week. We'd pause constantly to discuss plot theories or make fun of the characters' decisions. As a senior software engineer at a tech firm downtown, I've always been the guy who fixes things. When the production server crashes at 2 a.m., I'm the one they call. When junior developers can't figure out why their code won't compile, I walk them through it. At home, I was the same. Fixing leaky faucets, debugging the smart TV, solving whatever problem arose with calm efficiency. We chose not to have kids. It wasn't some dramatic decision. We just kept putting it off until one day we realized we were happy as we were. Our friends with children looked perpetually exhausted, their conversations dominated by school drama and soccer practice. Melissa and I had freedom. Spontaneous weekend trips to Hocking Hills, late-night conversations over wine, the luxury of silence on lazy Sunday afternoons. But something shifted about 2 years ago. The changes were so gradual I almost didn't notice at first. Melissa started going to bed earlier, claiming exhaustion from her job at the marketing firm. The spontaneous intimacy that had always come naturally began requiring negotiation. "I'm tired, honey," she'd deflect. "Not tonight, I have an early meeting," she'd excuse herself. "Maybe this weekend," she'd promise without meaning it. Weeks stretched into months. When I tried to talk about it, she'd brush me off. "All marriages go through this," she'd say, not looking up from her phone. "We're not newlyweds anymore, Ethan," she'd remind me with a dismissive tone. I told myself she was right. After 17 years, maybe this was normal. Maybe passion naturally evolved into companionship. But companionship implied togetherness, and we were anything but together. I'd come home from debugging code all day, to find her on the couch but not waiting for me like she used to. Now she'd be curled up with her phone, barely glancing up when I walked in. Our conversations became transactional. "Did you pay the electric bill?" she'd ask without looking at me. "We need milk," I'd mention while she scrolled. "I'll be late tomorrow," she'd announce to the room more than to me. The woman who used to text me funny memes during work now went hours without responding to my messages. The partner who'd grab my hand while we watched TV now sat on the opposite end of the couch, a gulf of cold leather between us. Tonight, I'm lying in bed beside her listening to her breathe, and I feel like I'm sleeping next to a stranger. The outline of her body under the covers is familiar, but everything else about her has become foreign territory. When did she become this person? When did I become invisible to her? I stare at the ceiling, wondering if this is what the next 17 years will look like. Is this what marriage becomes? Two people sharing a house but not a life, bound by habit and mortgage payments rather than love? I thought I knew everything about the woman I'd been married to for 17 years. I was about to discover I didn't know her at all. Sleep wouldn't come that night. At 2:47 a.m., I gave up trying and grabbed my phone from the nightstand, careful not to wake Melissa. She mumbled something incoherent and turned away, pulling the covers tighter around herself, another wall between us. I padded down to the living room and collapsed on the couch, the leather cold against my bare legs. My usual rotation of apps provided no distraction. Work emails could wait until morning. Facebook was full of people pretending their lives were perfect. Instagram was worse. I opened Reddit, scrolling mindlessly through my usual subreddits, programming humor, relationship advice. Ironic, given my situation. Local Columbus news. My thumb moved on autopilot, barely registering the content flowing past. Then I made the mistake of browsing all. The algorithm had decided to show me posts from subreddits I'd never visited, including some of the more risque ones. Normally, I'd scroll past quickly, but insomnia and loneliness make for poor judgment. A post from Ohio Gone Wild caught my eye. Not because of the partially nude woman in the photo, but because of the bedroom in the background, those curtains. We had the same pattern. Melissa had picked them out at Target last year, insisting they were perfect for our room. I sat up straighter, expanding the image. The dresser in the corner, dark wood with brass handles, the same as ours. The lamp on the nightstand, the one Melissa's mother gave us for our anniversary. My heart began hammering against my ribs. No, it couldn't be. But then I saw it. The tiny mole on the woman's hip, just above the waistband of her lace underwear. A mole I'd kissed countless times over 17 years. A mole I'd traced with my finger on lazy Sunday mornings when we still touched each other. The phone shook in my hands. I zoomed in, desperate to be wrong, praying my sleep-deprived mind was playing tricks, but every detail confirmed what I didn't want to believe. The wedding ring on her finger, the white gold band with tiny diamonds I'd saved 3 months to buy. The shape of her body I knew better than my own. The way she positioned herself, that slight arch in her back she did when she wanted to look sexy. Melissa, my wife, my distant, too tired for intimacy wife, displaying herself online for strangers' validation. I checked the timestamp, posted 3 days ago at 11:30 p.m. I'd been asleep upstairs while she was in our bedroom, taking these photos, uploading them for other men to see and comment on. The comments made me physically ill. Dozens of men describing what they wanted to do to her, and she'd responded to several with winking emojis and thank you messages. My wife, who couldn't muster enthusiasm for a kiss goodnight, was actively engaging with strangers' sexual fantasies about her. My fingers moved mechanically, taking screenshots of everything. The photos, the comments, her responses. Evidence. The software engineer in me knew to document everything before it could be deleted. I scrolled through her post history. This wasn't a one-time thing. Multiple posts over several months, each one showing a little more, getting a little bolder. Photos taken in our bedroom, our bathroom, even one in the kitchen where we used to cook together. The woman rejecting my advances for months had been conducting a secret exhibitionist life online. Every "I'm too tired" had been a lie. Every "not tonight" had been a choice. She was saving her energy for this. I wanted to storm upstairs, shake her awake, demand an explanation. How could she do this? How long had this been going on? What else was she hiding? But something held me back. Maybe it was the analytical part of my brain that solved complex coding problems, or maybe it was self-preservation, but I knew confronting her with just this wouldn't be enough. She'd deny it, delete everything, possibly even turn it around on me somehow. No. If I was going to confront her, I needed to know everything, the full scope of her betrayal. As an IT professional, I had the skills to find out exactly what my wife had been doing behind my back. I sat on that cold leather couch until dawn, staring at those screenshots, my world fundamentally altered. The marriage I thought I had was a lie. The woman upstairs was a stranger wearing my wife's face. Finding those photos was just the beginning. What I discovered next would make me question everything I thought I knew about my marriage. 3 days passed before I could act. 3 days of pretending everything was normal while my world had shattered. I went to work, debugged code, sat through meetings, all while those images burned in my mind. At home, I forced myself to maintain the routine. Small talk over dinner, watching TV in separate rooms, lying beside her at night while she scrolled through her phone, probably posting more photos for strangers. Saturday morning, Melissa announced she was going shopping with her sister. "Might catch a movie after," she said, not looking up from her coffee. "Don't wait up," she added dismissively. Perfect. The moment her car left the driveway, I retrieved her old phone from the junk drawer. An iPhone she'd replaced 6 months ago, but never factory reset. Software engineers know people are lazy about security. Sure enough, it still had her Apple ID logged in. I spent 20 minutes installing a sophisticated mirroring app I'd modified from open-source code. Invisible to the user, it would copy everything from her current phone, messages, photos, app activity, even keystrokes, and send it to a secure server I controlled. When she got home, I'd need just 30 seconds with her phone to pair it. "Honey, can you check if this text sent?" "My phone's acting weird," I asked her that evening when she returned. She handed it over without hesitation, already distracted by whatever was on TV. The pairing completed in 15 seconds. I handed it back, and she never suspected a thing. The data flood began immediately. I sat in my home office, door locked, watching her digital life stream across my monitors. The violated feeling I'd expected to feel never came. Instead, there was only cold determination to understand the full truth. WhatsApp conversations with friends where she complained about our dead bedroom situation, while conveniently omitting that she was the one rejecting me. Text threads with her sister about how unfulfilled she felt, how she needed something more exciting in her life. But the real revelations came from her Reddit activity. The account I'd found was just the beginning. She had multiple profiles across different platforms. Instagram accounts I didn't know existed, Snapchat conversations that disappeared after viewing, but not before my software captured them, Discord servers dedicated to lonely wives, and secret fun. The messages were devastating. Dozens of conversations with different men, each one escalating from casual flirting to explicit exchanges. She sent photos, so many photos, not just the semi-nude ones, but fully explicit images I'd never seen, poses she'd never done for me, lingerie I didn't know she owned. One conversation particularly gutted me. A man named Derek from Cleveland had written, "Your husband doesn't know what he's missing." She replied immediately, "He's too boring to notice. Same routine for 17 years. I need excitement, adventure, someone who makes me feel something." "I could make you feel things," he offered suggestively. "I bet you could. Too bad you're not closer," she responded with clear interest. "Cleveland's only 2 hours away," he pointed out. "Don't tempt me, LOL," she deflected, but I could sense her considering it. She'd turned our entire marriage into a punchline, a sad story to share with strangers to justify her behavior. The woman who once said I was her best friend now described me as a roommate with a ring to anyone who'd listen. But patterns emerged as I analyzed the data. She had a type. Successful-seeming men who claimed to be entrepreneurs or executives, always from nearby cities, never local. She responded most enthusiastically to confidence, wealth indicators, and men who complimented her intelligence along with her body. She wanted to feel sophisticated, desired, special. An idea formed as I scrolled through message after message. Melissa wanted excitement. She wanted a successful, confident man who understood her needs. I could give her exactly that. I spent the rest of the weekend crafting the perfect persona. Richard Sterling, venture capitalist, recently divorced, based in Dayton. I built him a complete online presence using stock photos of a silver-haired man in expensive suits. LinkedIn profile showcasing his impressive career. Instagram with photos of luxury cars, high-end restaurants, first-class travel, the kind of man Melissa fantasized about while lying next to her boring husband. I was about to give my wife exactly what she wanted, a wealthy, exciting man who understood her needs. She would never see it coming. Creating Richard Sterling was like writing code. Every detail had to be perfect, every variable accounted for. I spent a week fine-tuning his personality based on Melissa's conversation patterns. He quoted philosophy, but not pretentiously. He mentioned his Tesla casually, never bragging. He traveled for business, but was lonely, seeking connection. When Richard first messaged her on Reddit, I watched her reaction in real time through the Mirror app. She was sitting on the couch, 10 feet away from me, and her entire demeanor changed. She sat up straighter, smiled at her phone, even bit her lip, gestures I hadn't seen in years. "Hi there. I don't usually message on here, but your post caught my attention. You seem like someone with depth, not just another pretty face, though you certainly are that too." Richard. Professional but flirty. Complimentary but not creepy. I'd analyzed dozens of her conversations to find the perfect tone. She responded within minutes. "Well, aren't you charming? Tell me, Richard, what does a man like you find interesting about a woman like me? Hook, line, and sinker." Over the next 2 weeks, I became the husband she wanted through another man's persona. Richard asked about her dreams, her passions, her thoughts on art and literature. He shared stories of business trips to Tokyo and London, of wine tastings in Napa, of the loneliness that comes with success. "My marriage ended because I worked too much," Richard confided one evening. "Now I have all this success but no one to share it with." "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" he asked her. Melissa's response was a novel about feeling trapped, unappreciated, invisible. She painted our marriage as a prison, me as a warden who didn't even notice his prisoners' suffering. It took every ounce of self-control not to confront her as she typed these lies while I sat in the next room. The irony was excruciating. She complained to Richard about how I never asked about her day, while ignoring my actual attempts at conversation. She said I didn't notice her anymore, while describing outfits she wore to catch Richard's attention that I'd complimented in person, only to be dismissed. She wanted passion and excitement, which she was getting from her own husband, just wearing another man's mask. After 2 weeks of building trust, Richard made his move. "I have a confession, Melissa. I've been thinking about meeting you in person. There's this wonderful restaurant in Yellow Springs. Quiet, intimate, perfect for 2 people to really talk. I know you're married, and I respect that. But couldn't we just have dinner? Just to see if this connection is real?" he proposed carefully. I watched her struggle with the decision for all of 30 seconds. I shouldn't. "But yes. When?" she agreed eagerly. We set the date for Saturday evening. "I need to visit my sister again," she told me that morning. "She's going through a rough patch, might stay overnight if she needs me." She lied effortlessly. The lie came so easily. No hesitation, no guilt in her voice. How many other times had she used her sister as an alibi? Saturday arrived, and I watched my wife transform. She started getting ready at 3 p.m. for a 7 p.m. dinner. The red dress from our anniversary 3 years ago. The one she said didn't fit right anymore. Full makeup, something she hadn't done for me in months. Her best perfume, the expensive one I'd bought her for Christmas that she was saving for special occasions. She looked stunning, absolutely radiant with anticipation and nervous energy. The woman I'd been begging to notice me for 2 years was glowing for a stranger she'd never met. "You look nice," I commented as she grabbed her purse. "Thanks," she replied absently, checking her phone. "Don't wait up. Sarah's really struggling. Might be a late night," she added without looking at me, a kiss on my cheek. Brief, obligatory. And she was gone. I waited exactly 15 minutes before following. I'd already reserved my table at the restaurant that morning, telling them I was planning to surprise my wife for our anniversary. The end. Hostess smiled conspiratorially and gave me a perfect view of the corner table where Richard had made his reservation. She looked radiant as she left for her date. In an hour, I would destroy that happiness forever. The restaurant was perfect for her humiliation. Upscale enough that she'd dress to impress, intimate enough that everyone would hear our conversation. White tablecloths, soft jazz, the kind of place where drama would be remembered and discussed by the staff for months. I watched from the entrance as she sat at the corner table, nervously adjusting her dress, checking her phone every few seconds. She'd ordered a glass of wine, the expensive Pinot Noir she only drank on special occasions. Her legs were crossed, foot bouncing with anticipation. She looked alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. 15. Richard was late, but she didn't seem concerned yet. She typed something on her phone, I knew without checking it was a message to Richard about running late being fashionable. 20. A touch of worry crossed her face. Another glass of wine ordered. 25. She was typing frantically now, probably asking where he was, if everything was okay. Time for Richard's final message. Look up. I watched her read it, confusion flickering across her features. When she raised her head and saw me walking toward her table, her face went through a transformation I'll never forget. Confusion to recognition to panic to desperate calculation, all in the span of 3 seconds. I slid into the seat across from her, calm as still water. Hi, honey. Sorry Richard couldn't make it, I said evenly. Ethan! What are you doing here? She stammered. She forced a laugh, high and brittle. This is so weird. I was just... Sarah canceled last minute and I was already dressed, so I thought I'd treat myself to dinner, she attempted to explain. In Yellow Springs? 40 minutes from home? I questioned. I was driving around thinking, you know how I get when I'm stressed. She scrambled for an excuse. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table between us. Should we review Richard's messages together? Or would you prefer to start with your Reddit posts? I asked calmly. The color drained from her face so completely I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I particularly enjoyed the part where you called me a boring roommate with a ring. That was creative, I continued. You catfished me. You tricked me, she accused, her voice rising. I discovered my wife posting nude photos online and having explicit conversations with strangers. I investigated. There's a difference, I corrected her. Her voice rose even more, drawing attention from nearby tables. You had no right to invade my privacy like that, she protested loudly. Privacy? I kept my voice level, which seemed to infuriate her more. You posted photos taken in our bedroom on public forums. You forfeit privacy when you broadcast our marriage problems to strangers on the internet, I responded matter-of-factly. It was just fantasy, just chatting. I never actually did anything, she defended desperately. I swiped to her conversation with Derek from Cleveland. Don't tempt me? When he suggested meeting? I showed her. Another swipe. Or how about Tom? From Cincinnati, who you sent our address to before chickening out, I revealed. People were definitely staring now. A woman at the next table whispered urgently to her husband. Our waiter hovered uncertainly near the kitchen door. You don't understand, she hissed, leaning forward. You stopped seeing me. You... Stop trying, she accused. I asked you out for date nights every week. You were too tired. I tried to plan vacations. You weren't interested. I bought lingerie for your birthday. You said it was impractical, I listed calmly. That's not the same as... She started. As what? As sexting with strangers? You're right, it's not the same. It's what a husband does when he loves his wife. What you did is what someone does when they've already checked out but are too cowardly to leave, I interrupted firmly. She tried tears then, the last weapon in her arsenal. Ethan, please, we can work through this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want, she pleaded. What I want is a wife who doesn't share naked photos of herself with half of Ohio while telling me she's not in the mood. What I want is a partner who doesn't describe our marriage as a prison to strangers online while I'm sleeping next to her, I stated clearly. I stood up, pulling out my wallet to leave cash for her wine. Where are you going? She asked. Panic creeping into her voice. Home. To pack your things. You can go stay with your sister, for real this time. Tell her whatever story you want, but when she asks why, know that I have screenshots of everything. Every photo, every message, every lie, I informed her. You can't just throw me out. I'm your wife. That's my home too, she protested desperately. Divorce papers will be delivered to your sister's house on Monday. Don't come by the house. Don't call me. Communicate through lawyers only, I instructed coldly. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Melissa. Richard Sterling thinks you should know. You're not as subtle as you think. That mole on your hip is very distinctive, I added as my final blow. I left her sitting there, exposed and broken. But her humiliation was just beginning. The divorce papers were delivered to Melissa's sister's house on Tuesday. My lawyer worked faster than expected. Clean, simple, no-fault divorce with a property settlement that gave her exactly what she was entitled to by law and not a penny more. She didn't contest. How could she? I had 60 pages of evidence attached to my filing. Her sister called me that first week, voice sharp with indignation. How could you throw her out just for wanting some time to herself? She's devastated, Ethan. 17 years and you ended over one fight? She demanded. I emailed her a carefully curated selection of screenshots, nothing too explicit, just enough to paint the picture. Her Reddit profile, some of the tamer photos, a few choice messages about how boring and pathetic I was. The phone call lasted exactly 3 more seconds. Oh my God, I had no idea. I'm sorry, she apologized before hanging up abruptly. 2 weeks later, Melissa was asked to leave her sister's house. Apparently, she'd made a pass at her brother-in-law after a few glasses of wine, claiming she was just being friendly when caught. The pattern was becoming clear to everyone. Melissa didn't want excitement or adventure. She wanted attention, validation, and had no boundaries in seeking it. She moved in with a friend from work. That lasted a month before similar issues arose. Then a studio apartment on the south side of Columbus. I heard through mutual friends that she'd been caught using company time to manage her various online personas, leading to a quiet resignation from the marketing firm. Last I heard, she was working part-time at a boutique in Dublin, living in a small apartment still active on Reddit under new usernames I occasionally stumbled across. Same photos, same desperate need for validation, same complaints about how unfair life had been to her. She never acknowledged what she'd done. In her version of events, posted across multiple support forums, she was the victim of an elaborate entrapment scheme by a controlling husband who couldn't handle her need for self-expression. Some people bought it. Most didn't, especially when they noticed the patterns in her stories, the inconsistencies, the constant need to be the victim. I kept the house, repainted the bedroom, bought new furniture, erased every trace of her presence. The divorce was finalized in 6 months. Ohio's mandatory waiting period. Clean break, no alimony, no drama in court. She knew fighting would mean more evidence becoming public. I sleep better alone than I ever did beside a stranger pretending to be my wife. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have tried counseling, given her another chance. Then, I remember those messages, the ease of her lies, the months of rejection while she sought attention from strangers. Some problems can't be fixed with debugging. Some corrupted code needs to be deleted entirely. Melissa wanted excitement, validation, adventure. She got all 3, along with the consequences. The mirror finally showed her who she really was, and she couldn't stand the reflection. As for me, I learned that sometimes the bug in the system isn't in the code, it's in the user, and sometimes the only solution is a complete system restore. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.